For our first segment, we are very fortunate to be joined by someone who I don't think I'm being too bold by calling you a friend of the show now, Matthew, am I?
Sure.
All right. Friend of the show, Matthew Hoh, Green Party Senate candidate
Apparently he
in
hasn't
North
watched
Carolina.
the show.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Well, friend of the show, not fan of the show. Thankfully, hasn't seen enough of it to know not to associate himself in that way. No, I'm joking, of course.
It's good to be here. I do subscribe to the Substack feed, so
you do, yes.
You can call me a subscriber if that helps. However you want to be more accurate, but friend, fan, subscriber. You know, I'm happy to, when the campaign's over, I'll shill for you, whatever you need me to do. You know, but yeah, so happy to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. We last spoke about a month ago, and when we spoke, the reason that we had you on was to talk about your battle to regain ballot access in North Carolina for your Senate campaign. The Democrats sort of very sleazily booted you off of the ballot. They decertified your signatures, even though you had more than enough to get on the ballot. So we're not going to rehash that whole thing. We talked to you for almost an hour. That was about a month ago. So it's on the feed. It's on the YouTube channel. Everybody can go back and take a look at that. But we have good news to report, which is that you are back on. A federal judge ordered you back on the ballot. Is that right? Do you want to explain how that happened?
That's correct. And what happened is after an additional month of investigation by the State Board of Elections that had previously denied certifying us because they were investigating, in their words, a universe of fraud, thousands of blatant forgeries, as they called it. After an additional month, which meant really about 2.5 months that they spent in an unprecedented manner looking at our looking at our signatures, looking at our petitions in a way that was unprecedented. We actually had as a witness in our lawsuit, a libertarian executive director here in North Carolina who said, in eight times submitting petitions, I've never seen them do this. We had other people saying it as well. But what happened was after a month of additional investigation, the State Board of Elections was forced to have another certification hearing, and they certified us because after all their talk about a universe of fraud, blatant forgeries, it wasn't there. They couldn't show anything. In this latest certification hearing, the State Board of Elections is no longer using words like universe and blatant to now words like there were a few, there were some, approximately 24, out of, again, 22,500 signatures we turned in. So the State Board of Elections unanimously certified us. They also unanimously, both parties, both the Democrats and Republicans that make up the board of the State Board of Elections, throughout dismissed the Democratic Party's complaints against us and against the county boards of elections that had validated all our signatures because, again, there was no evidence of it. So they had to throw that out. And a lot of this occurs because we have a federal lawsuit going on. And what it was is that they knew, the State Board of Elections knew that either they did this or it would be in a court decision. And so because they certified us, that effectively rendered our lawsuit moot. And then what we needed was the federal judge to move the deadlines for candidate filing so that we could be on the ballot. Because one of the things that had happened was that the State Board of Elections ran out the clock on us. So even if they had certified us back in June, we would not have been able to make the July 1 deadline. So the federal judge in our case has moved that deadline and has placed both myself and another candidate on the ballot for November here in North Carolina. Two things about that. One, the Democrats in the state can still appeal. We'll see that, but they have a very limited window because the deadline for ballot printing is August 12th, this Friday, so just a few days away. And then the other side of it is the North Carolina Democratic Party has filed a lawsuit against us in state court trying to keep us off the ballot. But we believe that because of the federal court ruling, that supersedes the state court and that we should not have an issue in terms of them being able to block us and kick us off the ballot.
Well, that's great news. I mean, yeah, it sounded to me at the time that they had no real case. And so what do you think was their end game here? Because I remember commenting when we first interviewed you that this seemed like a very sloppy, sort of half-assed effort. It didn't seem very well coordinated. It didn't seem very well thought through unless they were bluffing, unless they thought that you guys would just get scared and back down. Do you think that's what they were counting on? Because it just, it seems like it seems so obvious that they had no case against you. It's really hard to see how they could have been doing anything other than just pounding their chest, hoping you would run away.
I think that was some of it, that they thought we would not be able to have the resources to fight them, that we would not be able to withstand, a two-front battle against both the state board of elections and the Democratic Party. And this was, we're dealing with, is not just the local North Carolina Democratic Party, but almost as soon as we turned our petitions in back in June, the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee got involved. So Chuck Schumer's outfit comes down from D.C. with the Mark Elias Law Group and brings all their resources to bear on us. So I think that was some of it. Part of it was to exhaust us, and then to run out the clock, to make it so that we got pushed up against this August 12th ballot printing deadline, and that we'd just be left off the ballot because we ran out of time. The ballots have to be printed, so you guys aren't on it. So I'm sorry, too bad, so sad. Try again next year. So there was a lot of that. And there's also the idea of smearing us. I mean, so now for the last couple of months, we have had headlines in newspapers, fraud investigation of the Green Party, criminal investigation. Again, these things like a universe of fraud, when it really is about a shoebox of fraud is probably what you could sum it up like. You can't even really say that because there wasn't fraud, so that's, but that I think was it was to try and make it so that it would scare us off. It would cause us to think that this isn't worth it. It would cause people to be hesitant in the future about trying this because this is what's going to happen. We're going to have to go up against this. If we don't have those resources, and how are we going to do it? And then, of course, just to delay us and then to smear us.
Yeah, I mean, that element of it, I would think, has majorly backfired. I mean, with the first thought I had when you sent out that message to your network, basically, saying that the judge ruled in your favor, was this was a massive self-own on their part, because this made Matthew Hoh a household name among the entire American left. Like, every progressive indie media consumer now knows who you are. You've been on all the shows, Jimmy Dore, right. Katie Halper, Andrew Yang had you on his show. Like, you're now a major name. Everybody now knows who you are. This has to pad your numbers a bit in November. I mean, time will tell how many votes you'll get, but I'm certain that you will get more votes because of this whole ordeal you went through than you would have had you not. Because look at this fundraising network that you have now. Look at this whole universe of people who know who you are now, who can help you out now.
Right. One of the aspects about this was the smearing, as we said, and it, as you pointed out, Keaton, it blew up in their face. One of it was it just got us attention. We were talking to people that we would not have been talking to otherwise. If they had just certified us back in June, they could have just ignored us, and then we would have had to do everything we could, like other third-party independent candidates, to try and get attention, try and get coverage, try and get our name known to 7.3 million registered North Carolina voters. And so we've had a great success with media, both local and national. We've had several national NPR stories about us. We've had 5, I think, national Associated Press stories. The Washington Post has run at least 2 stories on this now. I mean, so we have had that attention that has benefited us. And, it proves our point. It proves the point that the two-party system is corrupt, it's undemocratic, and it's harmful. I mean, if you go back and look at this now, the allegations of fraud were just incredibly false. I mean, just disingenuous, specious, and with a real sincere, nefarious, and insidious motive behind it, right? I mean, the idea that now we've had our signatures reviewed twice by the county boards of elections, plus by a federal judge, because in his ruling this Friday, the judge, made it clear that I've looked at this and there's no fraud, and so all that you put all it together and you understand, okay, this is what these guys are talking about. This is why these guys are running as a third party. This is why they're saying we need more independent candidates in minor parties and grassroots campaigns. This is what they're talking about when they talk about the corruption. And if the corruption exists at this level, just in terms of keeping competition out, well, why are they doing that? Well, of course, it's to protect what they have. And are they protecting what they have? They're protecting their power. And where does that power come from? That power comes from their big donor money. And so why are they so afraid of these Green Party guys? Well, because these Green Party guys, they advocate for things that will threaten the profits of the big donors of both the Republicans and the Democrats. So you can kind of, this very nicely lays out all that we're talking about, explains why we're doing it, and, helps, articulate the urgency of why we need real political change in this country right now, not 5 years, 10 years from now, but right now.
Please clap.